I've just been so honored to be invited by your leaders to join you here today. I have to say, very smart leaders who are indeed doing the right things and have chosen to have a Region Smart Summit. You are starting, obviously, with exactly the right framework, your region. And what a region it is. You've heard it described this morning. I'm not going to do it again. It is a region with extraordinary assets that should translate into a strong and prosperous and growing economy. You know, I'm the outsider, so I Googled Memphis, and what pops up when you Google is just extraordinary and promising. You know, a region with a large and diversified economy, a global center for transportation and logistics. National think tank Brookings names Memphis a center for manufacturing, infrastructure, and jobs. So when I talk to Mid-South leaders, business executives, I'm wondering why the picture isn't always rosy and bright. Why did I also find too many articles about the poverty economy in this region and concerns that many of the citizens have lost or never had a vision and personal strategies for their economic success? There's one answer that I'm going to hold above all the rest. It is a broken jobs marketplace. And that is not unique to this region. It is a national dilemma. And we're going to talk about that a little this morning. Globally, over the next generation, as all of you know, the major competition between nations will be economic. It will be a war for jobs. And yes, our U.S. business environment is crucial for attracting and retaining companies. But the narrowing of policy differences in that arena among countries reduces its relative importance. So the availability of talent and the quality of the workforce continue to increase in importance. So nationally, we recognize a few things that I hope you'll keep as in your list of musts. Economic characteristics and strengths will continue to develop on a regional basis. Education policy is jobs policy, and it is economic development policy. Talent, an educated and skilled workforce, is the single most important asset in any business's ability to succeed in this global market and in any regional economy's ability to attract and grow jobs within their borders. America must rebuild our talent base, our human capital, to meet 21st century economic needs. American students must lead the world in order for our economy to lead the world. And America can and should have the best educated and skilled workforce in the world. But we don't. In virtually every regional economy across this nation, there is a very real and growing disconnect between the knowledge, skills, and abilities individuals possess and the need for workers ready to be productive on day one of employment across every economic sector. Employers in all sectors continue to struggle to find qualified workers. In short, the supply of American labor is not matching the demands of the current U.S. job market. Yeah, many do point to the education system as the source of the problem. Terms like the skills gap have become common in business and industry circles. But for many of us engaged in the field, we know that the real cause is much more complex. It is some of what you heard from Dr. Johnson this morning. The composition of the workforce and the desires of that workforce are all changing so rapidly. And the nature of work has changed just dramatically. Yet the job market in the U.S. hasn't adjusted at all, causing great inefficiencies in the current systems that are designed to supply that educated and skilled workforce and match the demands of our business and industry partners. The symptoms of the condition are well known. You could all cite them for me. Workers are unsure of what knowledge, skills, and abilities they need to acquire. With the change in the workplace, workers need to constantly keep upgrading and upskilling. More and more workers are being asked to demonstrate mastery of an ever-evolving set of competencies. Meanwhile, employers are reluctant to invest in employee training because of declining employee tenure and the fear of employee flight. Employers and educational institutions use the same outdated proxies for determining workers' knowledge, skills, and abilities that were used decades ago. Job titles and experience levels are inconsistent company to company and sector to sector. And the education and job training ecosystems that we've created, well, they offer such a chaotic mix of degrees, certificates, certifications, badges, many of which have little connection to demonstrated proficiency in knowledge and skills. Now, I recognize that many in this region, and you've heard Glenn talk about them, many have been relentless in their efforts to address these challenges. But to date, none of us, even nationally, none of us have discovered the silver bullet that can immediately fix the jobs marketplace. But there is ongoing work by very real change agents that are helping to diagnose and understand those symptoms I just talked about, to identify some foundational solutions and re-engineer the jobs marketplace. And that's what I believe you need to do in this region. I firmly believe that there are strategies that could launch in this region on the road to a connected jobs marketplace that provides for individuals the information they need to make good decisions about how to acquire the knowledge, skills, and abilities to get and keep good jobs. For educators to obtain the understanding they need to ensure students and workers have the knowledge, skills, and abilities with real labor market value. And employers with the educated and skilled workforce they need to be globally competitive and to keep and grow jobs right here in the Mid-South region. To achieve that, I challenge you to make two firm commitments today. First, commit to thinking and acting regionally. I heard Anna say that when she opened the conference today, and this should be your mantra. You know, in too many urban regions across the country, we witness either an exodus out of the city by citizens hoping life will be better and problems will be easier to solve in the suburbs. Or interestingly, a tsunami of wealth and experience into the city, forcing the economically challenged out. In both cases, the end result is always clear. The entire region struggles, suffers, and ultimately fails. We face these challenges together and win, or not. The second commitment, that is recognize that first and foremost, talent is the most important asset for this region's success. And you need to commit to a comprehensive, innovative, and bold new talent development strategy. Now, if you make those two commitments, there are three strategies that I believe are imperative. Strategy one, recognize that your talent development roadmap cannot be based on traditional, piecemeal solutions because the workforce is changing so fast and dramatically, and the workplace is as well. If you just cobble together a series of siloed solutions, they will not be transformational or sustainable or successful. Strategy two, recognize that all the players necessary to address the many challenges must be at the same table and engaged. Leaders here must be puzzle masters, putting all the players who hold the puzzle pieces at the same table so that you can click those pieces together and create the big picture. And strategy three, recognize that yes, you can identify and implement some short-term wins, no doubt about it. But the roadmap must be for the long term. You are in this for the long haul. So let's take a quick look at each of those three strategies and suggest some best-in-class thinking nationally around each. First, your talent development roadmap that can't be based on traditional piecemeal solutions. I want to put a little bit of workforce management perspective on those 4 generations in our workforce. The first time in our history that there have been 4 generations. The boomers that Jim mentioned this morning are finding themselves in the minority for the very first time in their lives, and they know they must learn to adapt or become extinct in the workplace. Corporate leadership, those in the room today, must be figuring out right now how to access their knowledge and transfer it to the future workforce. Then there are the Gen Xers. They value life balance more than any others in your workforce. Why? Because they grew up alone with both parents working. In addition, 40% of their parents were divorced or lost their jobs during the 80s and 90s. So these folks have little respect for title and rank because their parents had both and still lost their jobs. They are independent and self-reliant. They prefer to forget the rules and do everything their way. And now the millennials, 10,000 millennials entering the workforce every day in America. And by some estimates, there are already over 40 million of them in our workforce. For these folks, loving what I do is more important. It outranks salary and a big bonus. 89% of them agree I must be learning on my job every day. Half of the millennials have declared they would rather have no job than a job they hate. This part of our workforce believes that there will be talent clouds that will be the marketplaces of skills to be matched to projects of the day, not jobs for a year or careers for a lifetime. This project-to-project workforce now comprises about 1/3 of the US workforce, and it's growing. These workers want to make a difference in the world, and they respect diversity. So if the current workplace doesn't share those values, employees who've been sitting in the departure lounges will charter a direct flight to a better destination. Hordes of these young people will exchange their W-2s for IB-free status. They will become entrepreneurs. And finally, the centennials. This generation was born into the internet-connected world. Instant communication. The world they know is one in which they transmit text, voice, and video around the world all the time. And although these centennials have not yet entered the workforce full-time, they're moving in, and we can project some likely trends. Millions of these young people are or will be working learners. If you don't know that term, learn it. Because working learners do not expect to segregate their learning in a straight line education of K-12 +2, +4, or 6, and then go to work. Instead, they will be integrating their learning and working environment very early in their lives and will continue throughout their lives. So this is our nation's workforce. You can see how dramatically that has changed since we boomers understood ours. Let's think a little bit about the workplace. Since this is significantly a manufacturing economy, think about the dramatic changes in that industry and its workplaces as you think your talent development strategies through. Manufacturing has been through 4 major upheavals in the very recent history. The lean revolution of the 70s, I'm old enough that that's recent history for me. The lean revolution of the 70s, that focused on lean workplaces, lean processes, lean systems, and yes, lean workforces. The outsourcing phenomenon of the 1990s that threatened to break that critical connection between R&D. We thought we could keep in the US our leadership in innovation and research and let the D, development and production, go overseas. We learned that didn't work. Third, automation really began to take off early in the 21st century, introducing terms like dark factory, where so much was automated that owners could literally turn off the light and sometimes the heat. And that surely was a signal to prospective workers in manufacturing, wasn't it? And here we are today with the digitization of manufacturing, the need for data analytics and business intelligence new forms of human-machine interaction to be part of that industry. Through these upheavals, the nature of work has changed so dramatically that much of it is unrecognizable today. Meanwhile, retail in this country and globally is becoming IT and TD&L, transportation, distribution, and logistics, right? Instead of storefront. And healthcare is becoming retail and storefront instead of institutional. What is happening to our world? This is what transformative solutions, why they are required, and why it is necessary for you to understand that complex workforce and workplace before you select your solutions. Developing solutions is no longer about preparing individuals for single jobs or even single careers. It's about expanding learning options within a regional economy that help individuals develop competencies, knowledge, skills, abilities, behaviors, and experiences. These competencies now cut across not just multiple jobs or multiple occupations, but multiple sectors as well. Part of my life these days is directing for Business Roundtable in Washington, a national network of business and industry associations, 23 of the national trade organizations representing the economic sectors in our country that will produce 80% of the jobs between now and 2020. Last year, our network took on a very first consensus opportunity and assignment. They constructed, endorsed, and released an articulation of the common employability skills, the personal skills, people skills, workplace skills, and foundational academic skills needed for every job within their sectors. We have just completed a cross-cutting competency framework for the employers in retail, IT, restaurant and food services, hotel and lodging, and TD&L. That framework that provides the intelligence for educational programming to prepare individuals for economic opportunities in all of those sectors. We will launch shortly the work around the infrastructure industries, manufacturing, energy, transportation, IT, to provide the same kind of framework for educational programming. This work is important to you because it requires changes in the way you're thinking about your strategic solutions. First, your roadmap must begin with a deep understanding of the region's demand. And smart regions are really looking to the analytics about their legacy industries, their emerging industries, and their aspirational industries, those they would like to attract into their region. And without belaboring these points, because I don't have time, I want you to be aware, coming from the U.S. Department of Labor experience, that national data, the Bureau of Labor Statistics data, can be used as baseline here. But it is years behind the industry's reality, and that means you must incorporate real-time transactional data and data analytics in your work here. And I'm sorry, Glenn, I have to say this, employers are so tired of surveys and donut breakfasts, right? So invest in high-end, real-time transactional labor market data in those industry sectors that you know are the assets within your region or that you want here. And then show it to the employers and let them validate it, that this is right for us and right for our regions. Secondly, you will need to purposefully ensure you are teaching and assessing those common employability skills, and that is not natural in our educational systems. You need to be committed to integrating standards-based, industry-recognized credentials and their associated content into your pathways. You need to not be constrained by old thinking that education and workforce development or job training are two different systems. They are not. We are talking about systemic reform in education at all levels and changes needed in K-12, in your community and technical colleges, and in your university mindset. There are huge opportunities today to create accelerated, focused pathways in the old 11th and 12th grade and first 2 years of higher ed, accelerated and shorter and less costly, with better labor market outcomes, job outcomes for the participants. And if your systems, your education and workforce systems, are not prepared to be good partners, then there are huge opportunities available today to reform education just as manufacturing has been transformed via the wealth of technology-infused educational options that are bringing high school and post-secondary learning alternatives into other regions all around the country. There's nothing like a little competition. On the second strategy, now I do want to be clear. The challenges we face in talent development in this country and in this region are not all education's fault. So everyone with a stake and a role in this region's success must be at this table. This means political leaders, economic developers, community and faith-based organizations, philanthropy, civic leaders, who have I forgotten? All hold pieces of that puzzle that are going to be necessary for you to have a strategy that works. But I'm going to emphasize for a moment the role of business and industry. An employer movement is critical. This is where I do want to acknowledge that it was GMAC and Glenn and Sunny and Steve Barris from BioWorks that first reached out to me, and others who are now engaged in this region. Is indicative that business has taken a very important lead role. And as I've shared at the national level, finally, business and industry is stepping up to the plate, and they're playing a critical role in identifying these competency frameworks that will change the way we educate and skill America's workers. And they'll provide critical guidance, but that role has to be ramped up at the local level. And if you envision business's engagement to be one company, and it's usually big companies, that work with one college to create one pathway to meet one business's skill needs, then you're going to fail. Because that just runs with business cycles, and those programs of study can't survive, and you will not have built the capacity to re-educate and retrain to demands that cut across multiple sectors that allow for mobility within your workforce. And perhaps the single most effective approach to talent development in America today is ensuring we provide work and learn opportunities in the entire continuum of education. This means more internships, more apprenticeships, more part-time job opportunities. And recognizing that today and into the future, most of your workforce will be working learners. Models that ensure these young people work for pay and learn for skills will have the greatest return on investment for all. Because it is in the work experiences that young people gain those common employability skills, and companies that recruit, screen, and hire on competencies versus degrees report lower turnover and lower costs in per-person hiring. So organizing and fully engaging the employer community here is paramount. Finally, although some short-term wins are important, I said that you have to be in it for the long haul. And here are some of those long-haul pieces. The paradigms of education in this country are changing. We did build a model to accommodate a 19th century agricultural economy and then frame it as a 20th century industrial model of seat time-based education in a 21st century economy that has already moved from knowledge to innovation to performance as the success drivers. So we need to break those old paradigms and create seamless pathways with educational content, with more on and off ramps, from education to employment, to higher learning skills, to employment, et cetera, et cetera. We need to recognize that innovation is infusing education in the same way it has infused and changed industry, and look to including those educational technologies in your portfolio in this region, because working learners are going to learn any place, any time, any way they can. From the UK University's Future Learn to the online career academies that were rolled out as an alternative high school in Wisconsin just 2 months ago, to Work America's online credentialing. We now know how to expand learning opportunities for the internet generations. Quite frankly, I think we need to stop focusing on just jobs and occupations, and instead developing the competencies in individuals that recognize this is about competencies that cross over jobs that, as they're defined today, and we don't even know what they'll look like tomorrow, occupations that are changing very routinely, and ultimately across sectors. That will pave the way to economic opportunity. And we do need to start focusing on the working learners who are, in fact, our future, our talent, our key to economic success. I don't want to fool you. This is very hard work. The fact that you're here and the steps you've already taken are really a good start, but that's all they are, a good start. And I'm hopeful that 5 years from now, as I travel and continue to work in regional economies around the country and have opportunities to speak to other regional leaders, I want to be able to say, take a look at the Mid-South region. Man, Memphis has got talent. Good luck to you.